January 1st, 1934.
Yeah.
Inco Beverage came alive.
Prohibition had just ended when Joe Incardona launched his career in the beer business. Little did he know that career would span 7 decades, and that the company he founded with his wife Amelia would someday become a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
Amazing story. It's unbelievable, you know, it's unbelievable, but this is the way how it happened.
This American small business success story began on Adams Street in downtown Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Joe, my grandfather, had given up his career as a band leader in Rochester, New York, so he and his wife could move back to her hometown. He took a job at his father-in-law's wholesale grocery and banana import business, but grew restless there. The opportunity he yearned for came along when he was offered part ownership in the Rockwood Beer Distributorship, just a few blocks away.
This is the building where Rockwood Beer Distributors opened up when beer came back in 1933.
Within a year, he bought the other partners out and renamed the business Inco Beverage Company. Joe and Amelia, both children of Italian immigrants, were the entire workforce. He handled sales and deliveries. She took care of the books. Soon afterward, they were forced to move into a tiny storefront around the corner because his landlord also wanted to sell beer out of the Adams Street building. The business grew steadily. Then, in March 1936, Mother Nature brought the first of many hurdles the Incardonas would have to overcome, a devastating flood. The water lapped at second-story windows across the downtown area.
Well, when I was coming back from Hooversville and I saw that the river was overflowing up there, I figured it was going to hit Johnstown anyway.
So what did you do?
Well, we took the 2 trucks and the car up in the hill here. The beer, the kegs, they found them down in Seward, about 20 miles away down the river here.
Inco Beverage managed to survive, and after taking on the Schlitz and Fort Pitt brands, it was back on its feet. Soon, the company outgrew the crowded storefront on Railroad Street, so Joe Incardona bought his first building, the warehouse at 105 Adams Street, where he had started the business. It was an era when neighborhood taverns thrived. Bartenders wore starched white shirts and bow ties, and a bottle of beer sold for 20 cents. Rapid growth prompted Joe Incardona to expand his business again in 1945. He moved Inco Beverage to a bigger place, a former service station at 641 Railroad Street. My dad, Joe's son Nino, remembers it was an exciting time for the family.
What was obviously a big jump as far as size went was going over to Railroad Street, because there he essentially had to have a large enough warehouse to occupy 2 buildings.
I bought that part over there from Sam Silverman for $10,000, and then I leased all of this section here. And here's where we operated until 1958.
The company doubled its staff of deliverymen. Schlitz became the nation's most popular beer. Inco Beverage added the Stegmeyer label to its growing family of products. Marie Feather, now the company's comptroller, joined Amelia Incardona in the office. Things were rolling along until a bitter strike by Pittsburgh brewery workers brought business to a screeching halt. It became known as the Beer Wars.
We was out of beer 107 days. So we closed the store. They were going hungry. So the drivers got all together from Johnstown, and he says, we're going to have a convoy with 10 or 12 trailers, and we're going to march to the Pittsburgh brewery to get loaded. He says, okay, I'll lead the crew. You get me a sawed-off shotgun, and I'll lead the parade. And we went through. And we got all those trucks loaded. On the way back, on Horse Pike, they threw Molotov bombs on our trucks. 2 of the trucks got burned.
The episode began Joe Incardona's active involvement in the political side of the beer business.
I got a hold of Senator Taft from Ohio. We told him the whole story, what the hell was happening. And that's how the Taft-Hartley law was started and passed, through what happened here in Johnstown.
His growing role in the Pennsylvania beer industry lobby would take Joe Incardona to the nation's capital, where he testified on a proposed free trade bill before the House Committee on Interstate and Foreign Commerce. Joe was also elected president of the Pennsylvania Malt Beverage Distributors Association. During his 6 years in office, he helped draft important pieces of beer industry legislation, working closely with Pennsylvania's governor and congressional representatives. The company was also quite active in the community, a tradition that continues to this day. In 1958, Inco Beverage got a major break. Joe Incardona was awarded the franchise for Carling's Black Label, which would soon become the decade's #1 selling beer.
Schlitz and Carling's. We had two of the fastest growing beers at the time. We grow like mad. We were out selling Budweiser 4-1.
Carling's was what started. Once he got into that, then the huge volume of business that I'm conscious of would have been my high school and early college days was the Carling's.
In 1952, Joe Incardona received the Schlitz Hall of Fame Award, honoring its top distributors. That accolade recognized a standard of excellence that's still winning industry awards for the company today.
It's clear that in the Johnstown territory, Grandpa has, all you have to do is just go around to the other beer distributors and you realize that his operation is far exceeds the what his competitors have put together as far as the kind of organization, and he's just way ahead of everybody. So I can't envision a brewery, a national brewery, not wanting to have Grandpa as their distributors.
By 1958, Inco Beverage had once again outgrown its home. The Incardonas moved the distributorship to a 4,000 square foot warehouse on Bridge Street. The company now had 11 employees. Because Schlitz's sales had declined drastically, Inco Beverage was forced to drop the brewery's products. Luckily, Carling's sales were going strong. Still, displaying his knack for anticipating important changes in the industry, Joe Incardona became the distributor for the relatively unknown Miller Brewing Company. It was a gamble that didn't really pay off until 10 years later, when Miller's light beer sales suddenly propelled the company into the ranks of the nation's biggest breweries. Miller Lite's popularity and Joe Incardona's acquisition of the Stroh's franchise caused Inco Beverage's warehouse once again to nearly burst at the seams. This time, Joe recognized the need for a more dramatic expansion. He built a 12,000 square foot facility on several acres of ground in Richland Township, a suburb perched on one of the hills above Johnstown.
February '76, we moved into the new warehouse in the winter. February 7th, I never forget that day. We were only in there 2 years, and we were growing like mad. Stroh became #1. So we built the next 10,000 square feet. Come 1980, not enough room for the kegs.
By 1979, Inco Beverage was selling more than 1 million cases of beer annually. It became the first distributor in the area to computerize.
We're the biggest in central Pennsylvania here, so many distributors that are computerized don't have the big equipment like we have here. We have to have control for every label. We have something like 29 labels.
In 1985, the warehouse was expanded again, this time by 8,000 square feet. A separate 1,200 square foot sales office was added in 1986. In 1988, the Coors Brewing Company sought out Joe Incardona to become its distributor for 5 western Pennsylvania counties. The sales office was expanded to accommodate a bigger staff and a special point-of-sale room Joe designed himself. By 1991, the company was enjoying annual sales in excess of $10 million and received the nation's top honors among Coors distributors of similar size. Today, Inco Beverage has 30 employees, including a sales force of 9 people. Not bad for a guy who had to quit school after the 10th grade to help support his brothers and sisters, and a long way from selling beer out of a pickup truck.
It's part of the immigrant culture for first-generation immigrants to highly value education. So it's clear that in Grandpa's mind, education was a key element. And what he simply did because of circumstances, he just educated himself. And that was the constant approach he took to the business he worked in, and that is it was a process that required continuous education. He never rested on the fact that I now know everything.
Inco Beverage Company since 1934, a family business built from the ground up.